Welcome back to the Pattern Play podcast. It is episode 7. You're going to have to bear with me, folks. I'm in a hotel and I have terrible internet. So if I drop out, if I sound a little choppy or potentially just get stuck for a few seconds, you're just going to have to bear with that one. Technical difficulties, but we make it work. Thank you for tuning in yet again to the 7th episode of this podcast. We're super excited to have you here yet again. Keep smashing that download button. It is a massive help for us as we aim to drive up the leaderboard and get to the top of the podcast leagues, much like our respective clubs. Some of us more likely to get there than others. Let's kick off with headlines. We've got Von, we got Jude, and we got Sal today. I'm pretty nervous, to be honest, with Arsenal Liverpool coming up this weekend. I know that it's a massive, massive weekend, and I was kind of hoping someone else would host this one so I don't have to give my honest opinions of what it feels like to go to Anfield. But I'm not going to give my headline first. Why don't we go Sal first? What are you looking forward to or looking at this weekend?
I think definitely just the Liverpool and Arsenal fixture, right? 2 title contenders, first and second place last season. You know, two teams that were highly anticipating the season. So having them come head to head, I always prefer that the bigger teams play each other a little bit later on in the season. It's exciting to have it at the beginning, but it's the build up, right? Like when a little bit of a title race is established or there's a little bit of an idea of who's going to go far. I prefer it to be at that stage, but nevertheless, super excited. I'm not sure what to expect. I think, look, inevitably at some point in this podcast, I'm going to have a prediction or two, but I'm going to try my best to hold predictions unless asked, because I haven't really been hitting the nail on the head recently. So, yeah, I'm just excited for a good game of football, and yeah, bring it on, man. Super excited.
I think the one fixture that does stand out is obviously the one that you guys are talking about, Arsenal versus Liverpool. Given the record that Arsenal have against the Big Six, I am going to put in a little bit of a prediction, because the last time I was on the podcast, the Spurs City game, I had a feeling that Spurs were going to do something, and I just didn't say it, and I just went with the majority. The majority were wrong. So I think Arsenal shocks Liverpool this weekend. I think Liverpool kind of still trying to find their feet in the season, given that they struggled against a 10-man Newcastle in the last game week. I think there's some areas that Arsenal can take advantage of, but I do think it's going to be a very entertaining game. I also agree with Sal in that I do prefer these bigger games later on in the season when everyone has settled, everyone has picked up form or dropped off form, so it's like kind of easier to predict. So I'm putting my reputation on the line, so to speak, with an outright prediction of an Arsenal shocking Liverpool.
Oh, remember they're playing at Anfield, did he?
I do know.
Okay.
Sorry, the headline is Arsenal silences Anfield.
That's a tasty headline.
Yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to happen, to be honest. I've actually been lucky enough to watch Arsenal versus Liverpool at Anfield. It ended up being a 2-2 draw. I missed the equalizing goal by Salah because I needed to go to the bathroom. But anyway, and that was one of the best games I've been to atmosphere-wise. The crowd was incredible. So I'm really excited to see this one. I do think it's going to be really, really tight. I do think both Liverpool and Arsenal are still trying to sort of find their feet a little bit. I think Arsenal might be bouncing off their 5-0 thrashing over the weekend, and Liverpool sort of trying to recover and lick our wounds a little bit from conceding 2 late goals 2 games in a row. I'm not going to make excuses and say Arsenal have had 2 extra days basically to recover. But traveling to Anfield is going to be difficult. That crowd is incredible. Those fans are incredible. You feel it from the second you step foot into the city, all the way down to the stadium. Yeah, and if history is anything to go by in the last few games, I think majority of them have been draws, besides an Arsenal win 2-1, I think 3 seasons ago. And the late comebacks from Liverpool have been scored by Diogo Jota. So am really, really interested to see how the team fits and if Slot has sort of tried to correct the issues that we have defensively. I'm hoping Maka was back fully fit to slot back into our midfield and maybe hold it a little bit more. I'm pretty sure he'll play Connor and Dom and right back again. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really exciting game. I'm really excited for it. I'm also a little nervous, to be honest, but I just keep saying to myself, it's Anfield. So at worst, we'll draw. So that's my headline. At worst, a draw at Anfield.
At worst, a draw. Okay. I mean, to be honest, a draw at Anfield would be, I think, for Liverpool, and it's pretty cool that you were at the game, the 2-2. Was that the one in 2023 when we were 2-0 up and then
yes.
Was it Xhaka and Trent had that moment and then the crowd went wild and then you came back into it? Yeah, okay.
Yes. That's another thing is never rile up the Anfield crowd because
not a good idea.
That was actually a great week for me. I managed to randomly score tickets to watch Manchester United versus Liverpool at Anfield, West Ham United versus Liverpool at Anfield, and Arsenal versus Liverpool at Anfield. So I got to watch all 3 games in a week.
Wow.
Which is really good.
That's also an incredible fixture list. Like you can get 3 random game week tickets or 3 match tickets, but to get those games, wow. Okay, banger. I think my headline for the weekend is probably going to be that City, Arsenal need to make it win, to make it a different vibe from what it's often been. I know that we've got a really good record against the top 6, but the record is really great. But there have been moments where we could have made it better and didn't. And as a result, we didn't get the league. And 2023 is a great example, actually, Von, right? Because if we end up winning at Anfield, 2-0 up, Gabriel Jesus was on fire, Martinelli was on fire. It was a season where we ended up losing it by 2 points. And those are 2 points that we threw away. And then we ended up going to Brighton and we ended up going to these clubs that we should have got points at and we didn't. But I can't help but think it was that moment, you know, when Xhaka riled up Trent and they had that moment, and then you could just hear Anfield start to kick off because we'd quietened it down, you know, when you're losing 2-0 in a game where everyone was expecting Liverpool to roll over Arsenal. It wasn't quite like that. And it was a real shame. So I'm hoping that this weekend is a bit different, but it's more than that. It's that we need to make the most of chances. And Arsenal don't do that. We're not killer enough when we have the moment. So I guess my headline is we need a killer Arsenal. Will the killer Arsenal turn up? I'm not so sure. We'll see.
I think the deciding point for me is Arsenal are so good at set pieces, and based off the Newcastle game, Liverpool are really, really struggling to defend set pieces. So I'm really worried about that.
Yeah. We've lost Judy. He couldn't handle any more chat about Arsenal and set pieces, which I can understand, to be honest. But no, I hear you, and it's been a long running theme. I do think though that Saka not being there is not just an issue for the open play for Arsenal, but it's a real issue for our corners because his delivery from the right hand side is impeccable, and it's impeccable every single time. Rice puts it on an absolute sixpence from the left-hand side, but Saka's delivery is something else, and we don't have anyone like him with a left foot like that.
Do you genuinely believe that he is injured, though? Because I've seen videos of him when he went down and the medics were with him. He was saying, cramp. You can read his lips, and he's saying cramp.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he's fully injured and he was just saving minutes and he'll end up being on the bench, or was it just cramp to begin with?
Arteta does like those mind games, and there's always a chance that he ends up just walking onto the field. I think from what I've heard from the various sources is that he's out until after the international break. So we got this game, of course, and then we got a little bit of a break to get people back fit. The one who I do think has a better chance to be on the pitch is Odegaard, because when you mess up your shoulder, you should be able to just get an injection, a painkiller, and then you play, because I know that's a bit simplistic, but you're not hitting the foot, you're not hitting the ball with your shoulder. And he's not a player who's going up for headers in the box to defend or anything like that. He's a twinkle-toed, fairy of a player. my feeling is that if there's a way of injecting him a little bit with a painkiller and getting him on that field, get him on that field. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think when Eri takes his spot and then Eze comes on the left, but maybe that's just wishful thinking from my side. Let's move into more of a chat around Liverpool then. I don't want to exclude Judy and Sal from this. Jude, are you back? Are you all right?
I am back.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Well, then why don't we turn to you? Liverpool, Arsenal. I know you've made a big claim there around Arsenal coming up with the W at Anfield. Do you want to go into any more depth around why you feel that that's going to happen? I know the Big Six record is quite outstanding for Arsenal last few years, but is there anything else driving that prediction?
I think just they're coming off a very big confidence boosting win, where Liverpool can also kind of take confidence from a last minute winner. I think playing a big team, I think Gyökeres comes into play in terms of space to run into. So I think you will have something to say at Anfield, and he might do the hair flick celebration again. I think that's where I'm looking at mostly in terms of the space that he can run into. Depending if Odegaard plays or not, I think they should inject him with some sort of painkiller. But if Nwaneri starts, he was more, and I think you said this in the previous episode, like he was quick to get the ball out of his feet, and to find Gyökeres in that space will be very beneficial for the Gunners come match day at Anfield. Yeah,
nice.
I feel like, I'm surprised nobody, or am I missing something? Is there? Is there this weekend? I'm actually really, really looking forward to that. Unless I missed the headline that he's injured, I'm surprised that hasn't come up yet. So I think that's going to be very interesting, right? Seeing how he integrates into the squad, right? So talking about a very, very creative player. I think the moment Tim mentioned Odegaard, I thought about Eze, and I was like, hold on. It's going to be very interesting to see where he plays, right? Do they put him in a 10? Do they put him on the wing? You have that creativity. You've got the likes of Gyökeres, like Jude said, occupying those spaces, running in behind. I'm excited to see how that goes. Speaking of, killer instincts, having a player of the caliber of Gyökeres, I mean, look, we've only seen him for 2 games, but the reputation that he has, right? It's going to be interesting to see. And I said it last time out that the way Arsenal are playing at the moment, it's not necessarily just tactical or beautiful to watch or any of those things. It's decisive. It's a lot more decisive than we've come to see in recent years, right? They always spoke about needing that decisiveness, that killer instinct, goal scoring, and so on. Gyökeres will take his chances, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. So I don't think Jude's prediction, like Jude mentioned, that they'll shock Liverpool. I don't think it will be much of a shock. I don't think the gap between Liverpool and Arsenal is as great as maybe some people make it out to be. I know last season Liverpool were the dominant force, but we're talking about 2 powerhouses, right? Arsenal are a powerhouse at the moment. Liverpool are a powerhouse, and it's a clash of 2 giants at the moment. And I don't think it will be much of a shock. I still don't want to give a prediction, but good game of football on the way, I think.
but if it's not a shock, what is it? What will it be then?
I think
Because it is at Anfield.
Look, you see this whole Anfield thing, man. I don't disagree that the atmosphere is amazing at Anfield. I don't disagree that it what's the word? It intimidates opponents, right? We've heard managers speak about it. We've heard the likes of Arsene Wenger speak about it. But man, I don't know. It can make a big difference, but I still just don't think Arsenal going to Anfield is going to be a shock. I don't think it's that great that it's going to be a shock for another giant team to get 3 points on the road at Anfield. You know what I mean? But yeah, it can go either way. Just like I said, looking forward to a good game of football. That's all I'm here for, man.
I think when people talk about Anfield, it is legendary. It is the thing that people dream of. I struggle to think of any football fan, regardless of who you support, that doesn't want to go to Anfield and experience You Never Walk Alone just to feel the atmosphere as a fan. I mean, there's lots of stadiums I would love to go to as just a neutral, Leeds being one of them. But unless you've experienced it, you will never really understand it. And I say this as someone who has been to Anfield and has been to other stadiums in the UK and obviously stadiums here in the country as well. It is different. And the closest thing I can sort of relate it to as to how big it does help is look at Newcastle last weekend against Liverpool. The fans willed them to score those goals. The fans carried them. There were so many shots of the fans celebrating and talking and screaming that at one stage I was like, is there a football game on, or am I watching the fans more than anything else? Because the fans are what actually makes the game at the end of the day. Remember in COVID when we had empty stadiums, football just didn't feel like football. We were so happy to be watching the game again, but it didn't feel the same.
Yeah.
And I look at Liverpool specifically, we really, really struggled when we didn't have our fans in the stadium because they carried us so much. And I think that's the biggest thing. And like Tim explained, the small details of like Arsenal removing the cover from their tunnel so that, because Arteta felt that the players needed to feel the fans earlier and your opposition needed to feel the fans and let it intimidate you almost. That's what Anfield does. And I genuinely think people come to Anfield and they think, oh, it's all just a rumor, Unless you've been there, you don't understand what that stadium is like. 9 times out of 10, they actually shut off the sound effects because it is that loud. So we can't actually hear it on the TV. So I really think it's going to be a tough game. Don't get me wrong. I 1,000% think that my team is going to really struggle with set pieces. And unless we make drastic changes, we're going to concede a lot of goals. But I'm never going to give up, and I'm never going to say that we're not going to score a little last-minute winner again and set everything on fire.
Fair enough. I can understand that. What are we saying then in terms of final predictions for the big game for the weekend? I'm going to go with... I have to quarter Sal here, so I'm going to go with a draw, a high-scoring draw. I think 2-2 or 3-3. Vaughn, what are we saying?
I'm going to say 4-3 to Liverpool.
Judy, what are we saying?
3-2 Arsenal.
Sal.
Okay, if you're gonna force my hand, I think we're gonna get a draw. I think 2-2 as well.
2-2. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next big game, and I'm only calling it a big game because we could definitely have characterized this as a clash of the lower table relegation candidates, based on the fact that one of them was, of course, pretty low down the table last season, and one of them is a promoted club. But let's turn to Manchester United versus Burnley. We've got a question from Karabo, one of our listeners, who asks, how many games does Amorim have left? And I think it's worth us answering that question or turning to that question while we go through our convo about Man United, because I think there's a lot to cover on this one, and it's not really about the specifics of Burnley. I think it's more around what happened with Grimsby Town last night and how that sets us up for this weekend. So we got to turn to you, Sal, first on this one, I think, in all fairness. Firstly, maybe you can give us some reflections on the Grimsby Town result, because that was a bit of a shock to anyone in football, really. But also, how are you feeling ahead of the weekend? Do you feel this is make or break? Do you think Amorim has only 1 game left, or that he has 10 games or 20? Where are you sitting at the moment?
Honestly, man, I feel like Man United have forced me into a fence-sitting culture, right? Similarly to how I didn't even want to give a prediction for the game of Liverpool and Arsenal. I say a fence-sitting culture because I just don't know. This club, I grew up thinking that I had an eye for football, that I had an instinct for football, that I knew the sport like nobody's business, right? Better than anything in my life. And I'm at a point now where I just feel like I don't. And the reason why is because we have tried nearly every single thing under the sun since Sir Alex Ferguson left, right? We had David Moyes. Okay, we know that didn't work out. Then we brought Louis van Gaal, who I felt was right manager, wrong time. He doesn't get backed by the board, doesn't sign the players he wants, gets sacked after winning an FA Cup, bores the fans to death. We then bring in Jose Mourinho, who's the manager that can make any team win, and his career goes down south along with our club's culture. And he still rides off the back that finishing second is one of his greatest achievements. And that makes me wonder how bad things were at that time, right? Then we bring in Ole to go to the culture of the Man United way. And that for me was a disaster. That was one of the worst periods of being a Man United fan because we gave him so much time. We gave him 3 years, and I just never saw it. I never saw what they saw in him. Then we get Ten Hag, who I think every Man United fan wanted this guy. Before we were even linked to him, I wanted him, right? I was like, this is the guy to take us to the next level. And I remember speaking to Barlin before we were even linked with him when it was a pipe dream. That's how huge it was. It was one of those things where it's like, it's impossible, but if we had to get Ten Hag, how awesome would it be? So you can imagine when he put pen to paper, how big of a moment it was for us. It was like, oh, this is like, it's like when your stars starts aligning after every single thing just doesn't work out in your life. And now all of a sudden everything's going the right way. And then that's a bust. That's a bust. So, okay, you bring in a manager that supposedly implements a good style of football, has the pedigree, has the previous, doesn't work out. Then we bring in Ruben Amorim, a manager who sticks by his guns. Like I said on the last episode, with Ten Hag, he couldn't stick by his guns because he said he didn't have the players. Then we bring in Amorim, who is like the most stubborn coach we've ever had, sticking to his formation and his shape. Goes through half a season. We give him time. He didn't sign his players. We know we have Deadwood. Now we sign players. I'm looking at the squad, and it is not bad. Cunha, Mpumo, Bruno Fernandes. People can say whatever they want about Casemiro. There's experience there. De Ligt, Lenny Euro. And it's not working. What do we blame, right? What do we blame? One game, or many games, it's Onana or it's Bayern, it's keeper mistakes. It's individual errors. But how long can we keep making excuses? We can say whatever we want about Ruben. We can say that he's the problem. Ruben out. I'm not Ruben in. I'm not Ruben out. I don't know. Because whether or not your coach is trash, whether you Ten Hag, Ruben Amorim, Sir Alex Ferguson, whoever you are, you do not go to Grimsby and go 2-0 down. You don't do that. It doesn't make sense, no matter who your coach is. Right? Especially with so many new players. Cunha with Wolves is not going to Grimsby and going 2-0 down in the first half. Right? Mpumo with Brentford is not going to Grimsby and going 2-0 down in the first half. It's not happening. It's just simply not happening. So I like how Barlin said in his first episode that the problems are spiritual. It's because it's inexplicable. It's properly inexplicable. You can't put it down to just coaching. You can't put it down to just players. You can't even say it's the board or it's the culture or it's the owners or it's the meals that the staff are getting fed or it's the training grounds or the lack of facilities or a leaking stadium. You can't put it down to anything. And it's turned me into a fence sitter because it's so impossible to have a firm stance here. Because every single thing that we thought was going to be a solution to a single problem has proven to put us further and further down. So, I don't know. And my thoughts on the game, I'm hoping we get our first win, obviously. But it's getting to a point where if we win now, then it's going to be like, it's not going to be satisfying. That's how being a Man United fan has felt. Everything feels like crumbs. Even winning the Europa League last season, if we won, would have felt like, okay, it's something, but we still finished 16th, right? That's how it goes. Winning the FA Cup the year before, beating Man City in the final, right? I think we finished 6th or 7th, and it's like, okay, we're winning a trophy, but, we're doing this, but. It's never just, okay, progress. Okay, we're moving forward. There's always a but. So, yeah, sorry, man. I don't know. I don't know what words to tell you.
Sal, do you need a hug?
I need several.
Yeah, I'm Bluetoothing you a hug because that hurt my soul to hear you go on like that. Like, it's tough. And I mean, I remember when Liverpool were going through really rough times as well. It's hard to support a team that can do so much better and they're just not. It's heartbreaking week in and week out. And I want to say that there'll be brighter days coming, but I don't know how you're going to get there. Last night when I saw the lineups, I actually thought maybe Ruben's got a plan here, because the squad looked so strong to me. And I was just like, this is the squad that we were saying in the previous podcast he should have played over the weekend.
Kobe Mainoo was back. Yeah.
Yes, and Mainoo was like, I was just like, this is it. This is the squad. And I thought maybe, seeing as they've had such a rough start to the Premier League, he was going to go after the Carabao Cup. Like, that's his plan, to win, at least chase a trophy, and try and better himself off in the Premier League while chasing that trophy. But look, I don't think the second goal should have been allowed. It was a messy game. It really was. There was a lot of handballs and a lot of, like, without VAR, it is always going to be messy. But to rely on Harry Maguire to score your late equalizer again and save you, I said it yesterday in the group. I think Harry Maguire should just play striker. To be honest, I don't think he should be playing at the back, because he was also one of the causes for conceding a goal. But then your penalties, dude. You buy a new striker and then you let him take the 10th penalty?
That was so random.
Why? This man gets paid to score goals. That's his entire job. And you put him at number 10. Number 10. So, yeah, I have to question it. And then I also don't like the way that Ruben handled the press afterwards, saying that the only team that won was the team that played. You literally just sold your players under the bus. That's not how a manager should behave. You don't sit on your bench drawing pictures, trying to come up with new tactics for a team that plays in the 4th division. You go there, you have a game plan, and you execute it. And if plan A doesn't work, you already have a plan B and a plan C, and your players know that this is what's going to happen, and it's just not happening. But I do think United are going to win this weekend. You're going to surprise everyone, and you're going to keep Ruben on because
That's
they're
a
going to
shock.
win this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be like, oh, and now what? Suddenly, and they're going to win convincingly too. And you're going to be like, there's the United we know. There's the United we love. There's the United. Why can't you play like this all the week? And it's going to buy Ruben Amorim some more time.
I like that take, to be honest, because that's exactly how football works. Exactly when you think that there's no hope at the end of the tunnel, then the light comes. And, unless you're Ange Postecoglou, it's normally hope, not another train. I think with United, I can't help but, I grew up with the Man United-Arsenal rivalry in the late 90s and early 2000s as football I knew being football. This is what rivalry meant. This is what excellence meant. And it has felt like almost 15 years now of, I guess, Manchester United wandering around, or not Man United, but the leaders at the top of the business. And I do think it's the people at the top of that pyramid who probably deserve the most hate, because they've wandered around like alchemists chasing gold, really. You mix a little bit of legends with a bit of novice, you put disciplinarians, and then you try a dreamer, you put a pragmatist and then replace him with a romantic. You try the sort of iron-fisted tacticians, and then you move to the gentle rebuilders who believe in giving everybody opportunities. And it just feels like splashing out on big names and then moving back to investing in youth. And then, then you get Ronaldo in, and then Ronaldo's the problem. And I don't know, it's Sal, I can see you going through a number there. And I feel you, because I know how this...
Laughing or crying, Sal?
I don't know. It's just he's hitting the nail on the head. Like, when I say we've tried every single thing, man. It's I don't know.
It's almost like Man United need to be turned off and on again, just to see, like, maybe there's a bug somewhere that needs to be rectified. But just on the Grimsby thing, like, no matter where you finish in the Premier League, you're supposed to beat Grimsby, no matter what type of lineup you put out, whether your lineup has a lot of youth in it. You should have enough quality to beat a team like Grimsby. No disrespect, but they are in League 2. It is what it is. And yeah, the funny thing is their goalkeeper is a Man United fan. So he had mixed emotions. He said after the game that he was half fuming, because how do you lose to Grimsby? I think in terms of this weekend and just answering the question of how many games Amorim has, I think Man United go to Anfield on the 19th of October. I don't think Amorim's going to see Anfield. I think there's going to be a lot more like tougher fixtures, tougher than Burnley. Burnley, the newly promoted and struggling themselves. I do think United should win, but again, they should have beaten Grimsby. So you kind of never know where they're going. I think it was Barlin in the last podcast saying that there's no real identity. You can't see what Amorim is trying to do in terms of tactics. So it's a confusing time for Man United, and it's kind of a dire situation. You guys seem to have tried everything, and nothing has worked. That's why I suggest the turn it off and on again. But how do you do that with an institution like Man United?
But
Fire the inner ladies. Yeah.
If United do fire Ruben, who comes in?
But that also doesn't help the situation.
But that's another thing. That's the thing. I don't have an answer to that question. And you're right, it doesn't help the situation. But not only don't I have an answer to the question, the answer's probably wrong. Because every single person we've hired has been wrong. Even this whole thing of us trying everything. It's one thing to try everything, but it's another thing to try everything at the wrong time. Now, I don't know if you know what I mean, right? Like, let's say we're the type of club that will get a tenner and give sign players that would have worked under Mourinho, and then get Ruben Amorim and get players that would have worked under Tenag. Then we'll go and get, I don't know, who even to De Zerbi, and get players that would have worked under Amorim. So we try everything, but everything is just wrong. It's all wrong, from scouting to man. I think I need to start my own little Man United podcast, because I need a full hour-long episode to discuss my real feelings about this club. Man. It affects my life. Whatever.
I know the feeling a little bit. I think there was definitely a time between around 2010 and around 2018 where Arsenal I felt similar. The difference was, I think we were stuck under one person who was restlessly searching for a recipe to awaken his own sleeping giant, which was an Arsenal that looked like the early 2000s, but without money. And he clearly couldn't do it. I still love him for everything he did for Arsenal. Arsene Wenger is an absolute legend, but there's absolutely no doubt that when you lose, what was it, Judy? Was it 6-0 on Arsenal's on Arsene's 1000th game, I think, against Chelsea? Lost 6-0. Yeah. Those kind of moments where, I'll be honest, mate, I feel like what you look like and how you just spoke about United is how I felt about Arsenal. And you never know. You never know, man.
It was worse. I still don't think it was as bad as this, though, man. Like, even when Siobhan mentioned the Liverpool days, like where they were struggling, after Benitez left. First of all, I don't know. I don't even think it was as long. And second of all, I just don't think it was as bad for you guys, because with us, there's no hope, right? Like, I remember listening to a lot of Arsenal fans during that period, and the frustration was, we're not winning trophies. We're not winning the league. Right? We're consistently finishing in the top 4. It's not an achievement. We're not winning the league. We're not finishing in the top 10. You know what I mean? That's whatever.
It is a different kettle of fish. That's fair. I guess my maelstrom was under Emery more than under Wenger. But I did feel like, I guess what I described it as on Facebook, I remember a very long time ago, was like I was living a slow motion car crash for a decade with Arsenal. You just felt there was nothing changing. You were just going into that tragedy without any sort of way of adjusting the trajectory. But hey, I do think that United is almost like those companies that they describe as too big to fail. That at the end of the day, the number of fans you have, the revenue that you have, will mean that you will be able to buy players like you have this summer, Cunha, Mbeumo, Sesko, etc., until you brute force success. And I'm a cybersecurity guy, so brute forcing and getting what you want is sort of up my alley. But I think that's how it's going to end up going with United. And to be honest, I kind of hope it does. I'm not one of those fans who sits there and schadenfreude, enjoys the misery of my rivals. I do, but not for too long. I think you got to have a rivalry, man, But anyway, let's move on to Chelsea versus Fulham. I think Chelsea, Spurs, and City have less interesting fixtures this weekend, so we can definitely run through this a little quicker. But Judy, why don't you lead us into a quick chat about Chelsea versus Fulham? How are you feeling? Confident?
I'm feeling confident. This fixture was our kind of turning point last season. Tariq George scoring and Pedro Neto scoring the winner. But I do think that it's a game that we should win. If we are going to consider ourselves title challengers, then it's a game we have to win. I don't see, even if Cole Palmer doesn't play, I do see us winning. That's all I can say. It's a game we should win.
Yeah, agreed. Sal, what are you thinking? Chelsea going to walk over Fulham, or is it going to be more tricky?
I don't know. It's Premier League, right? So I don't know if it's going to be a walkover per se. The only 90 minutes I watched of Fulham was against Man. So they looked good against us, as everyone does. So maybe it will be a little bit of a more trickier affair, but I think Chelsea win. I think Chelsea are carrying a lot of confidence at the moment. I think it's a very high-spirited squad, a lot of chemistry as well. So I do think Chelsea will get the win, and will be a fairly decent one for them.
Yeah, I can't say I've watched both Fulham and Chelsea very closely over the last 2 weeks, but Chelsea coming off 5-1, right? 5-1 win, which we expected them to do after with West Ham. I mean, West Ham's not in the greatest of spaces. Fulham might have more confidence of coming back and drawing against United the way that they did. So I'm going to keep it short and say I do see Chelsea taking it by at least 2 goals.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Fulham will play well, but they will flatter to deceive. And it's one of the, is it the only club that hasn't spent a single pound this summer? I think it might be.
They've not spent anything.
I don't think they have. I heard Marco Silva in the post-match press conference saying something like that basically they were the only club yet to buy a player this summer, despite losing. They lost Reece Nelson and another winger. Anyway.
Willian left.
There we go. Willian, Reece Nelson, both loans that have gone. So they've lost those wingers. And there was another centre-back I think they've also lost who was on loan. And Marco Silva he looked fuming, and I think he's done a fantastic job at Fulham. So Marco Silva might be one of those managers who is on the market in the next 3 months or so, because I would not want to stay at Fulham if my owners are not backing me with a single signing. And hey, we are in a moment where the manager market is pretty terrible. There aren't many managers out there with Premier League experience. So yeah, I think he could easily find himself a good job. Talking about new jobs and good managers, at least in my opinion, Bournemouth versus Spurs. We got a Spurs home game on the horizon. For our Spurs listeners, what are we thinking? I'll go first on this. I think Minolan asked one of our listeners whether Tottenham it's too early to rule them out of the title race. I thought it was a really hilarious question. Thank you, Mino. But in all seriousness, unless Spurs turn around and smack Bournemouth like a 5-0 or something, I think they're going to remain sort of under the radar, and not many people are going to pay much attention, I think, to Spurs unless they do something big. But I am predicting a Spurs 3 points here. I don't think Bournemouth have done nearly enough to replace what they've lost. But Von, are you on the same page as me?
I think it's going to be a closer game than we think. And I say this because we struggled against Bournemouth at home. So I do think it's going to be closer than what we think. I do think Spurs will clinch it at the end. If I stand to be corrected, Bournemouth have just signed a new left wing.
Yeah.
To replace Kirkes, so that might give them a bit of a boost as well. So yeah, I think Spurs will scrape it, but I think it's going to be actually a good game to watch. It's going to be one of those rough, good football end to end.
Also think it's going to be an entertaining match. I do think Spurs going under the radar. I think they will win the game. I mean, have they conceded a goal yet? Maybe they concede their first goal, but I think they win.
Yeah, I think a Spurs win as well. I do think it'll be a good game of football, good Premier League match. But I think Spurs win. I think they're also going to be carrying a lot of confidence, off the back of last weekend. And also, yeah, I rate their manager so much, man. I can imagine like the talks in the dressing room after that City game, like about carrying that same confidence, carrying that level and whatever it may be. So I think it's going to be a Spurs win, but a good match all around.
Oh, do you think Thomas will fit nicely into United?
I was thinking about this actually, and it's another thing that I forgot to touch on. Just we always miss out, don't we? We always miss out, right? Every single time. I felt the same way when Spurs got Conte. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, City. I think they're I don't know. I don't know how to judge the City Spurs game, so I think it's going to be more interesting to judge both clubs after game week 3, right? So City are against Brighton. I think that could be one of the maybe dark horse games of the weekend, because Brighton have not looked good so far, which is a surprise because that manager, I always forget his name. I think he's really
Something
good.
with an H.
Yeah.
Oh, but he's so cute.
He's also like our age.
I was about
He's
to
younger. He's like 32, but he's so cute.
He is a proper young manager, and I think Brighton were really good last season, especially in the big games. Funnily enough, they lost a lot of the games against the bottom 10, but were really good against the top 10. And I would love to see another City struggle against Brighton, but I'm not predicting it. I think Brighton just haven't looked good enough in their games this season so far. So we will see what happens there, but I don't think City will keep a clean sheet, if that means anything. So what are we thinking about City?
I think it's going to be also an interesting one, because seeing how they respond off of last week, I think it's going to be interesting, because you mentioned the clean sheet thing, and I'm wondering like how much of a belting did these players get from Pep? Right, I'm really, really curious. I wish I was like a fly on the wall in that dressing room after the Spurs game, really. So seeing how they respond, City have always responded well. Typically whenever there was a downfall, Pep really goes in on them. If you've watched any documentaries of, those successful seasons of City, you see how Pep reacts to certain things, even when they win. If they're not doing certain things right, if they're not maintaining a certain standard, he really, really draws it home, and he makes men of his players. He really does. He forces them to grow. He forces them to fit the mold. So I'm very, very interested to see how they respond. I also think it's going to be a dark horse game of the weekend. I do, just because I rate Brighton on tradition.
Yeah,
right. They haven't looked good this season, but they were good last season. They've always been a team that's good to watch, that has exciting players. So I think it will be a good game to watch. But yeah, very, very interested to see how City respond. And I think they will win. I don't see back-to-back defeats happening right now. So, yeah.
For me, Brighton have lost a couple of key players. And I know they always spawn new talent from somewhere. They lost Estupinian. They've lost João Pedro. And not that they were key in the way that they play, but I think it does hurt them a little bit. I think Man City are very good at bouncing back after defeats against a big team. They come out and they're kind of angry. It's like when you what's the expression when you poke an anthill or whatever.
Hornet's nest.
A hornet's nest. Yeah, when you poke a hornet's nest, they come out all out attack. So I do think Man City, they will bounce back to winning ways. Yeah, that's what I have to say on that.
No, I agree. I also think City will I don't see them going back-to-back weekends with losses. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the video of Holland smashing the bottle into the floor and trying like it bounced into the bin, but it wasn't on purpose. It was out of anger after the game. But I do think Brighton are going into this game with a bit of confidence. I stand to be corrected on the scoreline, but I think they won 6-0 last night. And there was a bunch of debutants, a bunch of kids that started. I know James Milner captained. So the youngsters are coming through. And I don't think they played a very, very strong team, obviously, last night in the Carabao Cup. But I think that will take some confidence into it. And, I mean, they also have we have nothing to lose kind of energy. And when Premier League players, especially lower clubs, have that never say die, we've got nothing to lose kind of energy, you never know which way it's going to go. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be an interesting game, but I don't see City necessarily losing. They might draw, but I don't see them losing.
Yeah. Yeah, the comeback point is a good one. I don't think Pep often goes many games in a row with a difficult result, does he? It is a bit of a bounce back sort of approach. Okay, let's move to FPL quickly before we wrap up this one. Vaughn, I know, of course, you haven't entered this, so we're going to jump to Jude and to Sal. Guys, how was the FPL's week? Jude, why don't you kick us off?
I did relatively well. I got higher than the average. I think I could do better. I captained Cole Palmer. He didn't even play. So my vice captain was Salah. Thankfully, I do care about who my vice captain is for cases like this. Just heading into this game week, I think there's a trend, or not a trend, but like the smart thing to do is to target whoever's playing West Ham. West Ham are so bad at the moment, and Nottingham Forest are playing West Ham next. So it would be a smart move to bring in Chris Wood. That's my punt for FPL this week. Captain him.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Eh? I wanted to bring in Ekitike last weekend. I was like, the whole week, I was like, I leave my transfers till like the last minute, right? And you guys know this. This time, though, I'm doing it on purpose. So, I wanted to bring in Ekitike. I was like, the whole week, I was like, no, this weekend I'm bringing in Ekitike because I said in the podcast he's going to score against Newcastle. So I was like, cool, I'm going to bring him in. And then I didn't realize that I couldn't afford him. I couldn't afford to bring him in like with the transfer that I wanted to make. So that didn't work out. So I ended up captaining Haaland. And I had Reinders and Cherky in my team. So that kind of, I had to bite that bullet. I obviously wasn't very, very intelligent with my move there. So I then made the intention to wildcard this coming weekend. I'm just throwing it all out there now. But the Arsenal and Liverpool fixture makes it very tricky. So I'm not sure what direction I'm going to go in. I'm not sure who I'm going to be captaining this weekend. I'm still deciding. But I think I'm going to leave my wild card for next week. We'll see how it goes.
I feel like you're following your team's way. How did you put it? Right players, wrong time?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing with your FPL.
Well, for all that they're putting me through, they're still in my heart. So yeah, it's one of those apple doesn't fall far from the tree kind of things. So yeah, 100%. But this is me with FPL always. I always mess it up every single weekend. These guys will tell you, like I always tell them, I'm like, someone will score, and I'm like, oh, and I was going to put him in my team. Oh, and I was going to captain him. And it happens to me every weekend. So this season I decided I'm not even going to say that anymore. I'm just going to up here scan. We'll see how it goes.
Well, you're doing better than me. That's safe to say. Judy said he was above the average. I was also above the average this week by 1 point. So I did not make any gains. Yeah, it was not a great week for me. I captained Saka. He got injured. I had Reinders 2, Bruno 2 points, Mark Dewey, whatever that guy ended up on the
Sunderland.
Yeah, because I had Palmer, of course, be injured. I had Virgil Murillo with 1, Sells with 2. It's terrible. So I have actually wildcarded, which is not actually helping me at all because I've got no idea what I want to do with it. It's just making all my decisions more tricky. But to go to the league, the Pattern Play Podcast League, we do have a new leader entering Game Week 3. So we've got Brett Lambert of the Zuby Mentals. no hint there who he might support, with 78 points for the game week, 146 total. So he's leading our league at the moment. Ash is in second, and we'll have it your way. So loving it. We had a lot of people with 75 points. Brett, I just have to shout you out for Gyökeres captaincy. I think that's quite a shout given how we looked in game week 1. I think that is a bold move, Cotton. And we'll see how Brett does in the second game. But also a big shout out to Pash for captaining Gakpo, which I thought was a pretty solid call because he's looked really good this season. And I really think Gakpo is moving up to a new level. Folks, let's have a quick chat about the UCL draw, which of course landed this evening. So I'm going to quickly read out some of the big names. Sal, you don't have to log in for this segment.
I mean, to speak on Newcastle's half.
Hey?
He can speak on Newcastle's behalf.
Yeah, there we go. We can nominate you for the Newcastle. I'm going to quickly go through Arsenal. So Arsenal have drawn Bayern Munich at home, Inter away, Atleti at home. And then we've got Club Brugge, Olympiacos, Slavia Praha, Kairat Almaty, and Athletic Club. Quick from me, I think it's a very, very nice draw. I think getting Bayern and Atletico at home means that the only tough away trip we have is Inter Milan, who beat us last season. If you remember, they were the only club to beat Arsenal in the Champions League before PSG did the number. Then Club Brugge, Olympiacos, Slavia Praha, and Kairat Almaty. I mean, Almaty in particular in Kazakhstan. I'm glad that's at home because, geez Louise.
They bought a China.
Yeah, they bought a China. This being in the Champions League is already a bit of a skeptical thing for me. I'm like, Kazakhstan is former Soviet Union and it's definitely Asia. But anyway, I think that that's a very, very nice draw. And I think we have no excuses to get into the next round. City have drawn Dortmund, Real Madrid away, Leverkusen, Villarreal, Napoli, Bodo Glimt, Galatasaray at home, and then Monaco away. Any thoughts on City's draw there? I mean, we've got Dortmund and Real Madrid, Leverkusen, Napoli. I think those are probably difficult fixtures. Any comments on City?
Nice to see Kevin De Bruyne versus his old team.
There's actually a lot of storylines in this draw. A lot of homecoming.
Yeah.
Trent goes home. David Luiz comes to Stamford Bridge, which is cool. But yeah, I think City should progress from those fixtures, hopefully.
Yeah. And then Liverpool, we got Real Madrid at home.
It was the first draw as well.
Yeah. I mean, no corruption, of course, being done there, right? Real Madrid at home. Inter away for the second game. Atleti at home, which is strangely the same as Arsenal, except Bayern and Real Madrid are swapped out. Frankfurt, PSV, where I live. Marseille, Karabag, and Galatasaray. Von, what are you thinking?
I don't think it's the toughest draw, to be honest, but I don't think it's the easiest draw with that stupid Real Madrid. Like, yeah, let me not just say. Let me say. Let's go Champions League.
Von, are you not excited to go up against Trent and show him up? Or
I actually had Trent's shirt on earlier. I was going to wear it for the podcast, and then I was like, no. Look, I love Trent. Trent was one of the only players I have invested in. Like, you know, they say never fall in love with your club's players ever. So I did that with Michael Owen when I was a kid. Still have, like, Michael Owen's still my favorite player of all time. Yes, I know I'm one of the very few people that rate him, but I was little and he was my first crush and I fell in love with him. And then he left and he went to Real Madrid and I was like, never again am I ever investing in a player. And then in walked this little kid named Trent and I was just like, I backed him from day one. And I was really happy for him when he moved because I think he does deserve a new challenge. And I never blamed him for it. I always blamed his brother. I saw his brother at a game last December and I was about to say words, but then I was like, let me not get kicked out of the stadium. So I always blamed his brother for the move and not him specifically. And I was more hurt when he did his press conference and he spoke fluent Spanish versus when he said goodbye, because I think it was the right way for him to leave. And I love the fact that he kept playing for the team right until the end. Right till the end, he showed up for the team. I'm excited to have him at home. I'm not excited for the way the fans are going to react to him. I know he's already been benched at Real Madrid in the second game. I don't think it's going to be the easiest game, but it's nice to have Xavi Alonso coming home as well. Like Xavi's one of ours as well, so Xavi and Trent coming home is always going to be good. But it's just anyone could have predicted that Real Madrid was going to get pulled against Liverpool for this Champions League. Like it was just a given. So yeah, that irritates me more than anything else. But I'm excited. I mean, we thrashed them at home last season. We'll do it again.
I love the confidence. Judy, do you have the same? You've got a few new names because, of course, Barcelona isn't drawn against any of the other English clubs, but we got Barcelona at home, Bayern away, tricky. Benfica at home, of course, the David Luiz reunion. Atalanta, not Atlanta. Ajax at home, Napoli away, another tough game there, and then Paphos, no idea, and then Karabag.
David Luiz actually plays for that Paphos team.
What?
I think they're Cypriot or something. It's very random. I think the grand sentiments of Chelsea fans, maybe I might be wrong, is that we're just happy to be back. And I don't want to jinx anything, but we have Napoli, we have Benfica, Barcelona, and Bayern Munich. And that was our run in the 2012 Champions League. Yeah, we beat Napoli in the round of 16, Benfica in the quarters, Barcelona in the semis, and then, of course, Bayern, where we're going to be playing them in this Champions League at the Allianz. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. We're happy to be back.
Any exciting fixtures for you, Sal?
I was just about to say before I go there, Jude's going to start that thing. I don't know if you remember last season when Chelsea were doing quite well, but we're not in the title race. Right? So watch them win like 3 games in a row and go top of the log in the league phase. I mean, we're just happy to be back. We're just happy to be back. That's when I'm going to start going in on Jude on this podcast. But anyway, a lot of exciting games. I'm super, super excited to pay attention. Look, as much as it sucks to not be a part of this, it's fun to watch from a neutral point of view. I'm always a football fan, so I'm a Man United fan. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Funny enough, the Monaco actually is a team I'm looking forward to watching because we don't get the French league here. And my favorite player is back in football, Paul Pogba. So I have now an excuse to watch him. I have a means to watch him, and I'm super, super excited. He also goes back to play against Juventus. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to in the Champions League. And yeah, De Bruyne up against City, Trent against Liverpool, and Chelsea's group is quite exciting too. I'm super excited to see how Chelsea play, actually. You know, the way they played in the Club World Cup, the way they fared against, the likes of PSG. I'm excited to see how they do. Liverpool are always up for a challenge in the Champions League, and Arsenal as well. Like how Jude says they're happy to be back. It's the same way that I kind of felt when Arsenal returned to the Champions League after so many years. I was excited to see how they fare. And feel the same way about Chelsea. So I think it's going to be an interesting one. Excited for it to come back. And there's nothing like European nights, right? So yeah, looking forward to those midweek fixtures.
The season is so back, man. The season is so back. I love European football. I can't wait for us to get into the routine. And I'm a massive fan of the new format, guys. I love it. I love it. 8 games against 8 completely different teams. None of the sort of the 2-leg thing. This is so much better. Yeah, big fan of
a lot of big fixtures, regardless of who the big teams are. Like you're going to play one of the big boys in the league phase. I'm a massive fan of the new format as well.
I think that was the main reason why they did it, was to ensure that you get big games from the get-go.
Yeah. What was the Newcastle draw? Who did they get? I didn't actually.
I'll be honest, I don't have it in front of me.
They were in pot 4, so they have like hectic.
Oh, so it's puts.
Yeah.
They have one of the hardest draws. I'll get it for you now.
I think Barcelona go to St. James's Park.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be a nice atmosphere.
Because St. James's Park is like another, like Siobhan was saying, it's like another Anfield, man.
Yes.
Level, but like it's also a stadium that, for European, Anfield on European nights is a different theming. And think St. James's Park is something similar. So that's a game I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah.
That's the only one I can remember.
Okay, Newcastle have Barcelona, Paris, Saint-Germain, I think, Benfica, Leverkusen, PSV, Marseille. How do you say that, Jude?
Marseille.
Marseille, Athletic Club, and Union SG.
But that's a nice one. Well,
There's a few easy-ish games there for a club like Newcastle, I think. But yeah, interesting.
I think it's a bit of a difficult group.
Yeah. I think what will make it difficult for them is that they just don't have the squad to compete on two fronts. And so could get rough. Just before we do game of the week and end this one, we got a question from Liam around the inverted left back. And I think he's asking really whether in the first few games of the season, are we seeing a bit of a shift away from that sort of style, that tactical innovation? And I think we don't have to spend too long on this, but I think with Arteta and Pep, they were the two real proponents of having an inverted left back. So obviously, with Pep, it was João Cancelo and Zinchenko and players who you wouldn't really consider them that good at defending, but were really, really good at making a different shape. So by having an inverted left back or right back come into the middle, you have three centre backs or three defenders and a 2 in front of them. So 3-2 as your shape. And that allows you to have a front 5, one in each of the 5 channels that Pep sort of breaks the game into, or these zones that the tacticos love to refer to. And so you have one in each. And normally left winger, left 8 or 10, centre forward, right 8, 10, and then the right winger. Classic Saka, Odegaard, Gyökeres, Rice, Martinelli style shape. But you've seen the Pep versions of this. It is a bit odd that Arteta started the season with Calafiori at left back, who's not an inverted midfielder or inverted left back. Zinchenko has been completely iced out of the Arsenal scene one way or the other, and Pep has got rid of all of his inverted style fullbacks. I would say Rico Lewis is probably the closest one technically to be able to play that role, but he's moved as well to having these like big centre-back style fullbacks, right? The Akanjis and the Akes of this world are far more popular. I'm keen to see or hear your thoughts really on this, guys. Are you seeing this as a trend in the league? Do you think that tactically we're seeing something new? Are we back to the back 4? How do you see this one? Bit of a free fall.
Well, I don't know if I think so, but I hope so. Right? You remember on the last episode I said like coaches should never outshine players, and this whole tactical era that we've been in, I respected it and admired it for a while. When Pep started with this inverted wingback thing, I was like, wow, like this guy just thinks about everything. And then I got really sick of it. I was like, I miss what football used to be. So I'm not sure. It's interesting with the way City and Arsenal have been setting up. Similarly to like our first episode where I said I think the number 9 is making a comeback in football. I don't mind things going old school. So going back to a back 4, a standard back 4 with your normal right back, normal left back, your 2 centre backs, I think it's still the most effective way. You can't outsmart or outcoach football. You can't. You're never going to be smarter than the game. You're never going to be able to out-tactic the game completely. So I do think we're going to see a little bit more of a transition back to traditional ways. And we're kind of seeing that now. So yeah, maybe.
I think football is an ever-changing thing, right? In terms of tactics, there's a lot of things that have died over the years and made a comeback over the years. And I think this is just one of those things. I was incredibly frustrated when Chelsea's managers employed this inverted wing-back role. And I'm seeing Malo Gusto in the midfield. It was quite frustrating at times because the player profile that Malo Gusto is, he must be going up and down the wing. I shouldn't be seeing him where the number 10 is supposed to be. So it was quite frustrating from a Chelsea perspective. But when it was employed, it was a great kind of tactic to overload the midfield and And I just think in terms of the death of it, tactics come and go in football, and it's just something else will come up that seems innovative, or maybe we're going old school as well. Unless you're Amorim and you stick to your guns.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think football is kind of a little bit like fashion, where what is happening now won't be happening in a few years, and then it'll suddenly come back and it'll be the new thing. I have noticed a trend in football going back to a classic, or more classic of the midfield is where the game is made, as opposed to starting from the back and attacking that way, which is what we saw in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, like those sort of years before tiki-taka football came in, and then obviously attacking from the back. So I think with this one, because the style of football is changing and a lot of managers are going more old school, where your attack comes from, or your press comes from the midfield first as opposed to from the back, that the inverted left back is not necessarily featuring as much. But I also think we haven't really seen games where it's needed right now, where both teams will need to press hard. I think at the moment we're seeing teams that are, one is pressing and the other is defending. So when things start opening up and more games come in, you'll see it featuring again.
Yeah. Interesting takes, guys. I think, the watching Man United against Grimsby, if there's one thing that sort of stood out, is how, the whole point of having an inverted left back or right back is to create that box in midfield in some respects. You get the two deep and then you get the two in front of them. It's really difficult to dominate that space when you got a square four in the middle. And if there was one thing that I could take away from watching Man United, it's the front two of that box four that they try to create in midfield. They don't do the midfieldy bit. And so the center just falls away. It collapses. There's no. Some coaches do this style of drills where you'll put a long elastic band, or it's not really an elastic band. It's more like a rope between your midfielders, and then they have to run together so that the rope never hits the ground. I don't think that Ruben Amorim's team does those drills with the forwards and the two deep guys, and so. Yeah, Casemiro and Bruno seem so isolated from Cunha and Mbeumo if it's those two in front of, but sometimes it's a variation. And I'm interested to see if someone was to take over Man United, whether they'd move to bringing back the inverted left back and go away from that 3 or 5 at the back, whatever that system is, and move to a very compact box in midfield. Because when you are hemorrhaging goals and you just need to stabilize your club, a box midfield 4 is a heck of a way of doing it, with 3 strong defenders ready to mop up anything that gets behind them. And if anyone sees any highlights of how Grimsby Town managed to beat the press, you'll see that there were centre backs pressing in almost the final third. You really shouldn't be doing that. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. Let's get back to the point. Game of the week. So, Sal, you've got 1, Von 0, me 0.
I'm going to sit here and drink my water while I listen to you guys play this game.
Jude, 3. Yeah, okay. Well, Linz is not here to go equal there, because he's of course on 2 as well. So Sal, all we can hope is that you're going to get a point, or Von's going to get a point, because otherwise Jude's really going to extend this lead out, and we got to catch up. So this player, I think, will be a little easier to get than...
You say that every week.
I know, but Giovinco was actually pretty tricky. I realized that when I was reading it out, like, just spent most of his Juve. So as soon as I started reading out, it was a bit tricky. A much longer career. I suspect I'm going to make a bet to Club 5 in this player's 10 club history. And I don't think, anyway, I'm not going to give another hint. He starts his career at Lanceros Boyaca before moving to River Plate in 2004. spends 5 years at River Plate before moving to River Plate, of course, in South America, before moving to Porto in a very classic South America to Europe pipeline. Plays for Porto, does very well, and then moves to Atletico Madrid. Stays at Atletico Madrid for 2 years only, but does again really, really well. After Atletico Madrid, he moves to Monaco. Boom. Okay.
Well done, Sal.
Thank you, sir.
Well done.
We didn't get to the Premier League era. I was sort of looking forward to talking about his Manchester United loan. At that point, if you guys didn't get it, it was over.
So passionate. I didn't want it to get to that stage. So, yeah.
Very nicely done. Well, I'm sure Clolot is going to enjoy making the graphics for this one. Falcao's got some epic celebrations to choose from, I think. But that is all we've got time for. We have not managed to keep this under an hour, but I'm hoping that we've managed to keep it under 1 hour and 15 minutes, just about. So there we go. Don't say we didn't try. We just didn't try hard enough. Thank you, everyone, for making it this far. If you did do so, Vaughn, Jude, Sal, thank you again for your contributions. It's been an awesome episode. Thank you very much. We're going to have an awesome game week 3. I'm hoping for a couple more upsets. We haven't had enough upsets this season so far.
It's coming, Tim. It's coming for you. Don't worry.
Yeah. I don't think Liverpool beating Arsenal would be an upset, but, I'm looking for something dramatic. So maybe a Burnley 5-0 win is all we're looking for. No, Sal, I appreciate your mental health.
I had enough upsets. I think I deserve a break.
I think you deserve a break too, and there's probably an argument about whether that would be an upset. But anyway, let's move swiftly along to the outro here. Thank you, everyone, and see you for episode 8.